Bring back rock. Hey everybody, it's Dean and welcome to Bring Back Rock. Today we had the pleasure of talking to Tyler Heath. Tyler is the lead singer of the band Leather Duchess, and I really seriously can't thank him enough for talking to us. Had a great conversation with him, really enjoyed it. If you're not familiar with Leather Duchess and you're a fan of Dangerous Toys, you have to check them out. You owe it to yourself. But if you're just a fan of high energy rock and roll, like Dirty Looks or Dangerous Toys, check out Leather Duchess. I did drop the ball and forget to ask him how the band formed, one of the first questions I normally would have asked. So he was nice enough to get back to me. So if you give me about 30 seconds, I'll let you know how the band formed, and then we'll get right into the interview and I will catch up with you at the end. Thanks. Leather Duchess formed in the summer of 2014 when Tyler Heath and Mark Edgar moved from Oklahoma to Los Angeles, California. They met Jake, who was a bass player and singer for another band on the local scene at the time. Jake was going to fill in on drums for the band until they could find a permanent drummer. They melded so well that they ended up wanting him to join full-time. The second guitarist in that original lineup was Storm Rolls. Now, Storm knew a guy in Sacramento by the name of Colton Seaver who was planning to move down to Hollywood. Storm brought Colton in on bass, so with that five-piece lineup, they played their first show on August 8th, 2014. How you doing? Thanks. Once again, thank you very much for being here, taking the time. So we talked about earlier.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, you bet. So why don't we talk? Like I said, we'll start over. How was the? Who initially inspired you to get up on stage, or what initially inspired you?
Yeah, as far as frontmen go, that inspired me, as I said, Mr. Jim Dandy of Black Oak, Arkansas. Frontmen such as like Paul Stanley and David Lee Roth, and guys that just really, put on a spectacle, put on a show. 70s Ted Nugent.
Definitely.
Obviously the 80s guys like Axl Rose and Sebastian Bach, and
when showmanship was almost as important as what you put out there musically.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That was great. So all right, Jason Mcmaster is obviously an influence, because the first time I heard Leather Duchess, I thought he was either guesting on a track or or a Dangerous Toy, or he had another project because he's got a million of them. So where does that come in?
Well, when I discovered Dangerous Toys at the beginning of my rock journey and my diving into 80s glam, as I was getting down to those lower tiers, I discovered that band and thought, this is just everything. It checks all the boxes. It has everything I like in a band. It's everything I worship, everything I want to be. And I thought his singing style was just fantastic. I thought it had such a cool groove, such a cool tone. It was that perfect blend of kind of heavy metal, but rock and roll with the kind of ZZ Top boogie in it. It was just all these things I loved. And I wanted to sound like that so bad. And it was like, I will do anything it takes to sound even half as good as that. So I would, lock myself in our rehearsal room. And you know what it was? It was the, have you heard the breakdown to Gimme No Lip?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's kind of a call and response thing with the guitar player. I would sing that over and over and over until my voice was gone. Just trying to sound like that. So yeah, to say that, that was an accident would be a total lie. I definitely, there was a time when I was trying my absolute hardest to sound like him. And it did reach a point where it's like, okay, you got to be your own thing.
Right.
Find your own shtick and find the textures in your own voice and your own style. But that it'll always be in there. So
now, I noticed you're the only vocalist on the tracks, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. So, because there's a lot of tracks you use different vocal styles, even in the same track.
Yeah. I have a couple different voices that I use, and I have more than I used to. I used to literally only have two. It was like you can sing low chest voice, you can sing high head voice, and pick a lane, because there wasn't much moving in between them. I got a little more mixed voice on the second record than I had on the first voice, and hoping that gets stronger, because the really, really good singers, especially the guys in the 80s, were the guys that could just hang out there all day. You know, they had a strong midsection, and there was no shifting gears between head voice and chest voice. It was just all one fluid thing.
Because I was pretty impressed with the new album.
Oh, cool!
Like you
Thanks,
said,
man.
you do. Yeah, I was listening to them back to back, kind of. I loved the first album, but as I was listening to the second one, I'm like, I don't know. I really dug the second album. I like the guitar sound in it, and
Awesome.
like you were saying with the voice changes, there's a little bit more dynamics, and
yeah. I think there's more dynamic overall. I think it's a little better. The songwriting's a little better. It's a little more dynamic as far as like the songwriting goes. I think all four of us as musicians just got a little better, as you should, you know.
Right. The more you do it, the better you get.
Right. Exactly.
You know, just the way it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love you. Go ahead.
I love bands that have a progression in their sound. You know, as the albums go by, you can hear them and see them growing as musicians.
Well, and you can still tell who they are throughout the whole thing. They're still that,
right?
You know,
totally
the core of who they are. And I don't know about you. I learned different voices because of covers. We do different covers, and you try to sing differently, and that's how you got more tools in your toolbox. It's kind of fun to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you must know Jason personally. I saw videos of him like performing with you, and you have a show coming up with him, right?
We may play that. They're playing the Whiskey in August. We're supposed to play it. It hasn't been inked yet, but yes, we will probably be playing with him. And we played with him last year in Austin.
Perfect.
Which was a good time, yeah.
And you're based in California, right? Everybody is?
No.
No.
I'm really the only one still officially in LA. Yes, there was a time when we all lived here. Jake, the drummer, he lives up in Crestline, which is about an hour and a half from here.
Okay.
Mark moved to Houston, and our bass player, Colton, who's from the Northern California area, Sacramento area, he lives in Vegas now. So we're pretty spread out.
Okay. Now it's amazing you can actually do that with a band, except for live shows. But
yeah, I know. And we're really trying to do more touring anyway, and playing out, you know, and doing tours and playing in different cities. So it was like we'll just fly in for shows, and we make it work. We're working on the third album now, and you know, we've been sending files back and forth and doing it that way. So
that's crazy. The second one just came out how long ago? Not very long.
November of last year.
Okay, so the third one's being worked on.
Yeah, I mean, we let 4 years go by between the first record and the second record, and we did not like that. That was too long. Okay. We were like, an album a year would be perfect. We're going to try to stick to that for as long as we can.
That's how it used to be, but then it kind of everybody kind of fell away from that. But
awesome. I mean, there's bands like King Diamond put out 5, masterpiece albums in the course of 4 years.
Kiss used to release a couple a year.
Right. Oh yeah. The bands in the 70s were even more prolific.
And otherwise, Brat every year came out with one. It's great. I loved having something new every year. Kept them in the front.
So,
what's Leatherfest? Because you had your first annual Leatherfest not too long ago.
We did. Yeah. That we've talked about doing that for a long time, kind of starting our own festival type thing.
Okay.
And so we finally just decided to do it this year. It was kind of out of frustration of the local rock scene.
Okay. I was going to ask about that in a second.
Yeah. And I don't want to use any names or anything like that. But we've dealt with so many shady promoters that book you with bands that don't make sense, that either want you to pay to play or don't pay you at all. No one comes to the shows. We've played more shows than I can count that were just busts, just absolute waste of time. And we kind of got frustrated, and we knew all these bands that are talented and young and play original music. Oh, that's the other thing is we kept getting booked with these tribute bands, and it's like, well, we're an original band that's kind of trying to do our own thing. The problem is that the people that come to the tribute bands, they're just there to have a good time, and there's nothing wrong with that. But they're not there to invest in new music. They don't really care about your record. They don't want to buy a shirt. They tolerate you while you're playing, but they really just want to see that Scorpions tribute band,
Gotcha. Yeah.
And that got frustrating because it's like, we're this original band that's putting out albums. We know all these bands that are doing the same thing, that are trying. So it's like, let's get all these people together and put on just a show that's nothing but young original bands. So that's what we did. There was 4 bands on the bill that we all knew personally, and it went very well. The venue was very happy with us. Said the bar sales were through the roof. He was wanting to do another one like the month later.
Okay, well that's always good.
We can't, right? Yeah, it's great. But it's like we can't do this every month. It's hopefully going to be an annual thing, and we're looking to do the next one the first weekend of September this year.
And where was that at?
That was in North Hollywood at Universal Bar and Grill. Yeah,
awesome. And I saw you played Vegas quite a bit, probably because your drummer's there and there's places to play.
Yeah, there's a pretty good rock scene in Vegas, and yes, our bass player is there. We played Vamped sometime last fall.
Any coming up quick? Any shows that you want to talk about?
Well, like I said, we're probably going to play that whiskey show in August with Dangerous Toys. Talking about doing a tour around that same time. The drummer is setting that up. I just talked to him today. He said he's got 4 or 5 dates booked, and he's working on about 3 or 4 more. So that'll be a Texas up through the southeast, northwest area.
All right, cool. And Leather Duchess has been around about 10 years?
Yes, we're coming up on 10 years. 2014 is when we formed. So next year will be the 10-year anniversary. Has it
been pretty continuous for the whole 10 years, or?
Sort of. I mean, yes, but it's also really easy to let a bunch of time go by, and you look up and you're like, it's been 2 years since we've done anything or written a song or we'll look back on the year and it's like, Jesus, we played 4 shows this year. It's like we got to get on it. We got to be doing more than that. Cause the climate today is so, the attention spans are so short that your social media output, your music output, just your product output in general, it's like a furnace you got to keep shoveling coal into.
Yep.
You get forgotten about really fast if you go away.
Yeah, it's hard because there's no place to listen to hear new music or to discover new bands unless you're online, either actively searching yourself or happen to come across something.
Totally. Yeah.
Which is sad. It's just sad. It's very hard to. So that's another reason that when I see a band that I really like, I want to at least do something on I don't reach tons of people, but everybody I reach at least one more person that can hear about your band or your music. So it's,
that's cool, man.
Do what we can do,
so that's what it's all about. And channels like yours are where it's at. That's really all we have anymore.
Right.
There's no Headbangers Ball or anything like that. So
I know I mourn it every Saturday night. So
right. Yep.
So originally, you may not even remember this. We talked back and forth a little bit on Facebook when I wanted to get your first album and it was sold out. And I just reached out to see if it was going to be re-released. And we started talking about our love of physical media.
That's right. Yeah.
And because I just love, there's a ritual there used to be a ritual to opening something and you read the liner notes and the thank yous and everything else. And I like having the media on there. And you never know when someone's going to. So you actually have a record label that you started kind of because of that, didn't you?
Exactly. Yes. Yep. Revolt Vinyl Records is my record label. And the focus is physical media. I can't tell you how many bands I've gone and seen that totally blow me away and they're awesome. And I go ask about a CD or a vinyl and they're like, well, we don't have anything, or they have a CD and it doesn't look very good. And it's like, there's a missing element there. And it's hard for me to invest in a band when that piece of the puzzle isn't there. So I've always put a huge emphasis on our own physical media for my band. But I thought, I want to help other bands put out cool stuff too. And a lot of bands want to, and they don't know how. I've had tons of bands come to me and say, dude, help me put out vinyl. Like, we don't know what to do. So anytime I can help a band improve their physical product, and that's a victory in my book.
Well, I used to even learn about the bands. I used to know all the members because you'd flip through the CD booklet or the album, and now I don't. There's some bands I like. I don't know any of the members at all unless you go and on your own and explore their websites. So it's kind of it's just different, but it is what it is nowadays. How many records have you guys put out now? I mean,
we just put out the second one.
The label. I mean,
the label. The the first release was Gunslinger. And then of course, Leather Duchess has a second album that we put out. Leather Duchess had a 7-inch single. I have a side project that put out a 7-inch single on the label. About that. Yeah. I put out, a friend of mine has a band called 77 Shakedown.
Okay.
And it was kind of the same thing. He was like, "Hey dude, I've got this album. I don't know how to put it out physically. Do you want to help me out?" I listened to it. I love the music. And I was like, "Hell yeah, dude." So I signed him more or less.
Yeah.
And so we put out his record on vinyl. And then Jason had a buddy who was putting out Broken Teeth's Guilty Pleasure on kind of a similar project as mine. He's got a little label that he started, kind of labor love label. And he's like, "Do you want to design the jacket?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, man. I'll do that." So he was just going to pay me outright to design the jacket. And then I'd hand it off to this guy and he'd put it out on his label. Well, months went by and Jason was like, "Hey, I don't think that guy's going to put it out. I got cold feet, ran out of money. Who knows? Any of these things are possible." But I was like, "Well, I've started my label. If you want me to release it, I'd be more than honored." He's like, "Yeah, man, go for it." So I got to put out a Broken Teeth record, and I just yesterday got all the pre-orders shipped out. So,
oh, really? That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. And, so far, people have been really thrilled with it, sending me pictures of it.
Very cool.
It, so
that's nice. That's good to hear. It's good to hear. I mean, I'm glad there's a lot of people that still want something tangible.
Yeah.
So you mentioned it. Let's just talk about Pulverazor.
Oh yeah, Pulverazor. A good friend of mine, his name is Tom Stegeman. He's the guitar player in Pulverazor. Okay. We've been friends for many years. I went to college with him back when I lived in Oklahoma. That was a project he had. He's got numerous music projects.
Okay.
And most of them are in a folder somewhere that he plans to get to at some point. But he had this one called Pulverazor. And I was at his house one day, and just for fun, we recorded some dumb little demos, and I'd always wanted to do a more heavy metal type thing. So I thought, "Hey, dude, let's make this a real thing. Let's get it out there and make it a real band and get it off the ground." So he was like, "Yeah, I'm all down." So I had the logo made. We wrote a full album's worth of material. There's a full LP coming.
Okay, awesome. I was going to ask if I saw just a single so far.
Yeah, well, the single was supposed to support the album, but the album's it's turned into a Chinese democracy type thing where it's like, I mean, we work on it here and there. It's a full LP, 10 songs, but it's like, it's going to get finished when it gets finished. But yeah, the single is out there, and we put that out on 7-inch. It was a song we did, and then another song that was a complete throwaway, total almost joke demo type thing we put on side B. But people ate it up. I had people in Europe paying $28 shipping for 2 songs, Yeah, I did a run of 50 of them, and those sold out pretty quick. So I did another run of 50 and still trying to sell those. So.
Okay. I liked it when I listened to it streaming, but I haven't bought it yet.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Well, it's back in stock.
Okay.
7-inch vinyl.
I was going to mention your cover of Sleeping in the Fire.
Yeah.
That I really like what you did with it because it's recognizable, but it's definitely different than the originals. You got to put your own stamp on it. What inspired you to pick that one?
Thank you, man. Sure. I was real apprehensive about putting that on the record. Okay. I actually initially didn't want to. Mark was the one who wanted to push for that. I was so worried that people were going to, and it's been well received, which I was very glad to see. People have kind of said what you said, it's different. It's your own version. And I liked it. I was worried people were going to say, "That's sacred material. You
don't touch it.
Don't touch it." Yeah. You have no business going there. That was a song. It was originally supposed to be, cause I have my solo music that I do. It was just a solo song that I was going to put on a solo record somewhere. And I called up Mark. Mark was still living in LA at the time. And I said, "Hey, can you come by the studio tonight after you get off work and just lay down a solo?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'll do that." So he swings by and adds a solo to it and really liked it. And then I was like, when I reached out to Jake and said, "Hey, dude, I just need some simple drumming on it. Do you want to come in and play the drums?" So he came in and played the drums. And then they're all looking at each other like, well, it's all the Leather Duchess members on it. Why don't we just make this a Leather Duchess song?
Right.
I mean, by all means, I was like, yeah, if y'all want to put it out as Leather Duchess, that's great. Let's do it. I was originally going to make that the B-side of the 7-inch single that we put out.
White Leather?
But yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that was my thought. Perfect spot for a cover. If it gets hated, we can bury it. No one will know about it, you know. But Mark was like, no, let's put it on the record. You know, I really like it. I think people will dig it. So I took the chance and was like, all right, yep, we'll throw it on the record. And like I said, so far it's been well received. So
yeah, I liked it.
Yeah.
And then I was listening to your solo stuff, which is country, basically.
Yeah.
But there's a Dangerous Toys cover on there. I was kind of surprised to hear, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. I've Promised the Moon. I've always absolutely loved that song. I think it's a great rock ballad. I play it all the time acoustically when I'm just sitting around strumming my guitar. And I've always thought at its core, it's a country song, you know? If you strip it down to just a guitar and a dude sitting around a campfire, it's a great country tune. So I thought, try to, you know, put some steel guitar and some fiddle on it and do a country version. So
turned out well. I liked it.
Thank you. Yeah,
I'm not a big country fan. I'm pretty particular on who I listen to country wise.
Yeah.
But I gave it a shot, and it's like, oh, that was pretty good.
I hear that a lot. People are like, I don't do a lot of country, but
nope.
Jason actually wrote 2 songs on that record. There's a song called Baby Bird.
Okay. Yep.
He wrote that. Yeah. And
there's a Garth Brooks cover on there, right? Is that the only 2 covers?
Yeah. No, side A is all originals and side B is all covers.
All covers? Okay.
Yeah. There's a Garth Brooks song. I'm from the same hometown as Garth Brooks, and I've always loved that song. There's Country Roads by John Denver. That's been covered
that one
thousands of times, you know.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you how many covers of that there are out there, but I've always loved that song. There's
another
a David
one on
Allan
there
Coe
too.
song. Yeah, and then Charlie Daniels' Long-Haired Country Boy.
Okay, yep, that one I'd recognize too. So what else has Leather Duchess got next? They're in the studio, or how far into the writing?
Not officially in the studio. This weekend we're all meeting up in Vegas to do the first official writing session / rehearsal for the 3rd album.
Okay.
Mark's been firing over the song ideas for the 3rd album. I think we've got 10 or 15 potential song ideas that we've been working on. So yeah, I mean, if we walk away from this weekend having done our homework, then we might have a 3rd album ready to go. But no, it has not been recorded yet. Certainly hasn't been polished or finished yet.
But the writing has begun.
The wheels are turning. Yeah. Other side projects I've got. I've got quite a bit in the can. Some stuff I haven't announced yet. I try not to talk about stuff that is not out there yet, because if stuff gets delayed, you get caught with your pants down if you hype something up and then it doesn't happen.
Right. Yeah.
Nothing's out there till it's out there. So
more solo stuff or more.
Yeah, I've got 2 country albums that are about 70% finished each. So that's solo stuff. One is more soft Willie Nelson type, very laid back, sentimental, sappy type country.
Okay.
The other one's more cheeky outlaw country, like Johnny Paycheck, that kind of thing. Okay. I've got a solo record that's kind of acoustic rock, kind of I guess GNR Lies, Beggar's Banquet type style.
So you got quite a bit going on.
Yeah. I've got another heavy metal project called Trancer, writing a full album for that. Hopefully put out a single this year. It's kind of just old school classic melodic metal. And then I've got one more project that is it's a combination of things, but yeah, I'll get more on that once it gets out there.
I thought Jason Mcmaster had the most projects, but you got like 7 or 8 of them, man.
I try to emulate him every way I can. His body of work is pretty incredible.
It is nice when you have a bunch of different outlets to write different types of things. So
yeah.
So how did the country part come in? Was that from just being in Oklahoma, or is that?
Yeah. Funny enough, I was into country way before I was into rock and metal.
Okay.
As a teenager, that's almost all I listened to was old classic country, Waylon Willie, Johnny Paycheck, Merle Haggard, Charlie Daniels. My first concert was Charlie Daniels when I was about 12 or 13. So that was kind of my first musical love. So that's always been with me. That's always been a part of me. Country, it relies on such rich storytelling and songwriting because you don't have the volume and the flash and the spectacle of rock and roll and heavy metal. You've got to win people over with your story or your song, or it's very organic. The modern stuff certainly isn't, but we're talking real traditional country,
right?
And I've always loved that about it. That it's as pure as it gets as far as songwriting goes, and some of those country stars in the '70s, would put Motley Crue to shame as far as being just total degenerates and total rock stars.
I was go ahead.
George Jones and Johnny Paycheck and those guys. If you're ever watching documentaries on those guys, they lived it up.
I love watching music documentaries, even if it's somebody I'm not really familiar with. There's always like a good story with it. It's always great.
Oh yeah,
hear.
Yeah.
I was just going to mention, you were talking about the country, and I don't know if you're familiar with Bowling for Soup at all.
Oh yeah.
Their singer, he just did a country album too, because, well, he's from Texas, but he said when you write the songs, when you write the songs acoustically, it that's closer to country than it is to anything else. So,
right. Yeah. Yeah, it really is. And you, if you strip any rock song down to an acoustic version, you kind of see that lineage and that DNA, sharing there.
It's not a far jump to tweak it a little bit here and there and make it that,
right. And I was talking about this with a friend of mine. I've always thought it was funny that you never hear, even with the bands like Cinderella and the rootsier bands that were kind of country adjacent, really, you never hear them talk about country, which is odd. They love to talk about blues.
Right.
They always love to talk about how they're influenced by the blues and Rolling Stones and that avenue. But I've never heard any of them say, yeah, we totally just, love Willie and Waylon and
right.
Merle Haggard. But to me, it's such an obvious continuation. It's not that different at all to me. So I've always found that to be a little odd.
Yep. I think, like you said, writing wise, it starts in the same place.
Right. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. How often do you guys actually get to play now with the releases of the albums?
As often as we can. Yeah, I mean, we kind of tried to stop playing the little local shows that we really just felt like we were spinning our wheels with.
That's what I was going to ask you about. I was going to ask you to expand on the local or the current rock scene. It's that bad? Is there a lot of I was hoping it wouldn't be, but yeah.
Yeah. And you hear all the time, don't play your hometown more than once a year. Right. That's common advice to bands, and really always has been. You saturate it, you wear people out. People are only going to come see you so many times, even if they love you. You got to get out there and play to new audiences. And the trick is finding people that want to hear new music.
Right.
Because there's a lot of shows you think you'd be a great support act for. It's like, oh, we're perfect for that show. That crowd's going to love us. And again, they tolerate you and they go, the band's pretty good. But they don't go home and buy your stuff. They don't go home and listen to you. You were just the opening act. And they're really there to see the headliner, mainly for nostalgia purposes. They don't even want to hear the headliner's new music. They want to hear.
Well, that's true.
So finding an audience that's hungry for new stuff is tough, but that's kind of the key. And they're out there. Those people exist. Like you said, you're always searching for new music. I'm the same way, always trying to find new bands. Yeah, there are people like us, but it's finding those that is the trick.
We're spread too far apart, I guess. There's
right. Yeah.
Can you talk they have those cruises or the festivals or anything like that?
We've talked about trying to get on the M3 type stuff or playing the Monsters of Rock festivals.
Yeah.
Haven't booked any of them yet, but again, and those are kind of weird too, because some of them are just purely, legacy acts. They almost don't book any new stuff, and some of them do incorporate new blood. So it's finding the ones that want the new stuff. That
Yeah, I've discovered a number of opening bands that I loved and ended up buying a bunch of stuff. I'm kind of disappointed to hear that, really.
Yeah.
I guess if you come with an open mind, it's easy to find stuff, but you just got to know where to look.
Right. Yeah. And it just, I get it. Like some guys that, you've been listening to rock and roll for 40, 50 years and there's no room for anything else. It's like, it's like they're just not that hungry anymore. I could understand that, I hope to never reach that point, but official like lineup of guys that I use. I've played shows. It's just me and a guitar. I've played shows, where, and those guys are so good that you don't even have to rehearse a whole lot. They know so many songs. And if you tell them the key of your song, they can plug along and make it, passable. So.
Well, very nice.
Yeah.
So do you do more on one side or the other? More on the rock side or more on the country side?
I mean, Leather Duchess is always the priority. That's my main band. That's really, that's really the only full functioning band. The others are really projects. But I do try it's easier to do stuff solo, obviously, well, mathematically speaking, you're one person and stuff just happens faster, you're not relying on 3 other dudes.
Schedules life gets in the way.
Yeah, totally. I would like to play more solo stuff. That's one thing I do want to start doing more, is playing, and I would like to get a solid country band that I could maybe do a small tour with. Hasn't happened yet. That's down the road, but yes, that is a goal for sure.
Okay. There's one more thing I came to think of. You talked about discovering like the 80s bands, and as you're working your way down to less known, that's when you discovered Dangerous Toys. What got you started listening to the 80s bands to begin with?
I guess I probably started with Guns N' Roses.
Okay.
Obviously. Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was 18 or 19, I got Skid Row would have been shortly after. Probably those two right there. Guns N' Roses, Skid Row. And from there it was just,
yeah, well, now you can just go down a rabbit hole online and just find videos and videos and music. But
you can discover them faster than you can listen to them. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. The whole problem is actually
right.
Yeah. But it's great.
Yeah.
The problem is you have to look for them. There's no place to just come along with the music anymore. It's tough.
Yeah. But I go through phases. In my early 20s, I went through a deep, like 80s glam phase, which is when I would have discovered Dangerous Toys, and went all the way down through the Jet Boys and the Wild Sides and the Dirty Looks and all those. And I'll still listen to a lot of them to this day. And then a few years later, I got more into like metal stuff. I got really into thrash metal and death metal and some of the darker corners of heavy metal.
That's where the other side projects are coming in now. Pulverazer, and what was the other one? Trancer, yeah. And Pulverazer. Okay, just so everybody knows, when they hear this, Pulverazor is Pulverazor.
You got it. Yeah.
OR. Okay.
Yep. Pulverazor. Yep.
Yeah. There you go. I like the name. I misread it the first time, and then I looked.
It's been called Pulverazer a few times. I'm sure there are many bands called Pulverazer.
Probably.
Yeah, I didn't come up with it. Tom has had that name since he was in high school. I thought it was pretty funny. I love it. Almost bad, pun, play on words.
Yeah. When I looked at it the second time, I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool. I got it.
Yeah, and surprisingly, it wasn't taken. So.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Every band name's been taken. So.
I know.
Yeah, it's crazy. But Leather Duchess, I can't wait for the third album, because I think it got better and better with the first and second.
Yeah, man. And once again, I think that the new stuff we're working on is even more, it's in the same vein. I think we're always going to sound like Leather Duchess. It's never going to stray too far from what we sound like. But yeah, I think the songwriting, again, is getting even better. I think everyone's getting better at their instruments. I think my voice is getting a little more developed. And we've got more tricks in our bag, I guess.
Right. And I think the production seemed a little better to me too.
Yeah, a lot better. Jake does all the production. And just as we became better musicians, he got better at producing it too. So.
Is it recorded like everybody does their own parts, or you guys get together in a studio and do the?
Yeah, no, we get together in the studio. It's all real. We mic up the amps. We record real drums. There's no samples. There's no drum tracks. No anything like that. We keep it as traditional as it can be. I would record straight to tape if we could, but we don't really have that option. But yeah, that was both of those records were recorded in the same studio. We kind of had a connection here in LA. It was a guy. His name's Bruce Whitkin, and he played in the Hollywood Vampires with Alice Cooper and Joe Perry, and he's like childhood friends with Johnny Depp.
Okay, interesting.
So he had pretty connected dude, but he basically just said, "Yeah, y'all can have free reign of it. If I don't have a session booked and y'all want to use it, go for it." So we work around his schedule, but here and there we would just go in there and record. So
small price to pay for studio time, really.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, if we were on the clock, we'd have owed him tens of thousands of dollars. So we were very grateful that we weren't.
And I think there's something to be said about recording in a studio with people there, with the band there.
Oh, yeah.
Rather than just people making a file here and sending it off, people making a file. I don't know. It's exactly. Some of that turns out really well, but there's just something about being around each other that feeds into everything, I thought.
Oh yeah, and we all sadly that guy moved. He's not there anymore. So we lost that connection. But we will record it hopefully in a studio all together at the same time once it comes down to that.
Well, I'm looking forward to it, and I got to order that second one because I've only streamed it. But
oh yeah, man! Well, I've got I'm looking at a pallet right now of the vinyl, so those are going to start shipping hopefully at the end of this week.
Excellent. I've got the first one in my hot little hands, but
there it is. Yeah,
yeah, there it is. Yeah. So, all right. I really do appreciate you just taking the time to talk to me. I really had a lot of fun talking to you. Yeah, it was a good time, and I appreciate it. I'll let you know when this comes out.
Cool, man.
All right. Thanks again, Matt. Talk to you later. Good luck.
Take care.
All right. So that was Tyler Heath of Leather Duchess. Like I said, go check him out. I think you'll like him. They're on Spotify, or if you're like me and him and you like that physical media, you can just Google Leather Duchess. It'll take you to their website and you can buy it directly from them. So I can't thank him enough again for sitting down with us. I can't thank you guys enough for watching these videos. And if you wouldn't mind hitting that subscribe button, I really do appreciate it. And thank you very much. We'll catch you on the next one.